She had been beaten, betrayed, and left to die in the snow, but when her eyes closed for the last time, an ancient vampire opened his. He lifted her into his arms, looked at the blood running from her neck, and whispered as if recognizing something impossible. "I have searched for you for centuries. Whoever touched you is already dead." That night, her world ended, and his finally began. The cold had stopped hurting 10 minutes ago. That's when Alara knew she was dying. Her body lay crumpled against the iron fence of the old cemetery, snow gathering in the folds of her torn dress, melting where her blood still ran warm. The men who had done this were long gone. They had taken everything: her money, her dignity, her hope. But worse than that, they had taken her trust. Because one of them had been Marcus, the man she thought she loved, the man who had smiled while holding her down. She tried to move her fingers, but they wouldn't respond. The sky above was black and starless, heavy with the promise of more snow. She thought about her mother, dead 3 years now, wondered if she would see her soon. Then the air changed. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't the cold. It was something else, something that made the hairs on her arms stand up despite the numbness. A presence. Ancient and vast and utterly inhuman. Footsteps crunched through the snow, slow, deliberate, coming closer. Alara couldn't turn her head, but she felt him before she saw him. A shadow that seemed to drink the darkness around it. Then he was there, kneeling beside her. And even through her fading vision, she could see he was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. Pale skin that seemed to glow against the night. Eyes like molten silver, dark hair that fell across a face carved from marble and moonlight. He reached out and touched her cheek with fingers that were cold, but somehow comforting. His voice was deep, textured with centuries. "Who did this to you?" She tried to speak, but only blood came out. His eyes tracked the movement of her lips, reading what she couldn't say. Then his gaze dropped to her neck, to the bruises forming there, to the small cuts where they had pressed the knife just hard enough to terrify her. His expression didn't change, but the temperature around them plummeted. Frost spread across the ground in a perfect circle, creeping outward from where he knelt. "I have searched for you for centuries," he whispered. And there was something in his voice that sounded like grief and rage and wonder all at once. "Whoever touched you is already dead." He slid one arm beneath her shoulders, the other under her knees, and lifted her as if she weighed nothing at all. Her head fell against his chest, and she heard no heartbeat there, only silence, deep and eternal. "Stay with me," he commanded. And it wasn't a request. It was a compulsion that sank into her bones and pulled her back from the edge she'd been sliding toward. "You will not die tonight. I forbid it." The world blurred around them. One moment they were in the cemetery. The next, they were moving through the streets faster than should have been possible. She caught glimpses of old buildings, narrow alleys, iron gates. Then they were inside somewhere warm and dark and vast. Candles flickered to life without being touched. A fire roared in a massive stone hearth. He laid her down on something soft. A bed, she realized. Black silk sheets that felt like water against her skin. "This will hurt," he said. And before she could process the words, he bit his own wrist and pressed it to her lips. A drink. The blood that filled her mouth was nothing like she expected. It didn't taste of copper or death. It tasted of power and starlight, and something impossibly old. She swallowed reflexively, and heat exploded through her body. Her wounds began to close. Her broken ribs knitted back together. The pain receded like a tide going out. She gasped, and her eyes flew open. Truly open, for the first time since the attack. He was sitting on the edge of the bed, watching her with an intensity that should have been frightening, but somehow wasn't. "What are you?" she whispered. "I am Kaelin," he said simply, "and I am what your kind calls vampire, though that word does not begin to encompass what I truly am." She should have been terrified, should have tried to run, but something in her recognized him, knew him, as if her soul had been waiting for this moment her entire life. "Why did you save me?" His silver eyes held hers. "Because you are mine. You have always been mine. In every life, in every age, I have searched for you. And tonight, finally, I found you again. Again? Her voice was steadier now, the healing complete. I don't understand. You will. He reached out and brushed a strand of dark hair from her face. His touch was gentle despite the power she could feel radiating from him. But first, tell me their names, the ones who hurt you. The memory came flooding back, and with it, a rage she didn't know she was capable of. Marcus, she said, and the name tasted like poison. Marcus Thorne, and 3 others. I don't know their names, but I would recognize their faces. Kaylin's expression went very still, very cold. Marcus Thorne, the merchant's son. You know him. I know of his family. Old money. Older sins. He stood, moving with a predator's grace. He will not see another sunrise. Wait. She sat up, surprised to find she could move without pain. You can't just kill him. He turned back to her, and for the first time she saw the full weight of his nature. The absolute certainty of something that had lived for so long that human laws meant nothing. I mean, there will be consequences. Questions, let them question. His voice was soft, but it carried the promise of violence. I have ended empires for less than what was done to you tonight. She believed him. Who are you really? She asked. How old are you? He moved back to the bed, sitting close enough that she could feel the cold emanating from him. I was born in a time before your history books begin, before Rome, before Egypt, when the world was younger, and magic still walked freely in the daylight. He paused. I am the last of the first vampires. The others are all gone now, destroyed by time or war or their own madness. I alone remain. So is healing from mortal wounds in minutes. Yet here you are. He tilted his head, studying her. You feel it, don't you? The connection between us. It's why you're not afraid. She wanted to deny it, but couldn't. There was something pulling her toward him, something that felt older than her body, deeper than her mind. What does it mean? It means you are my bloodmate, the other half of my soul, reincarnated again and again across the centuries. I have found you 17 times before this, and each time, I lost you. His voice dropped to something raw. Each time, you died before I could protect you, before I could claim you properly. But not this time. This time, I found you in time. 17 lives, 17 deaths, the weight of it pressed down on her chest. I don't remember any of that. You will. In time. The memories are there, buried deep. My blood will help bring them to the surface. He reached out and took her hand, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. But for now, you need to rest. You need to let your body finish healing. I don't feel tired. That's the blood. It will fade. He stood again, and she felt the loss of his presence like a physical thing. Sleep, Ilara. When you wake, we will deal with those who hurt you, and then I will teach you what it means to be mine. The compulsion in his voice was undeniable. Her eyes grew heavy despite her protests. The last thing she saw before darkness took her was Kaylin standing by the window, silhouetted against the night, looking every inch the ancient predator he was. When she woke, the room was still dark, but she could tell hours had passed. The candles had burned lower. The fire had died to embers. Kaylin was sitting in a chair beside the bed, perfectly still, watching her with those silver eyes. How long was I asleep? 4 hours. Your body needed it. He leaned forward. How do you feel? She took inventory. No pain, no weakness. In fact, she felt stronger than she ever had. More alive. Different. Everything is sharper, clearer. My blood is still in your system. It will fade over the next few days unless I give you more. He paused. The choice is yours. I will not force this on you. What happens if you give me more? You become stronger, faster. Your senses heighten. You heal almost instantly from any wound. You stop aging. His gaze was steady. But you also become bound to me. Tied to me in ways that cannot be undone. You would feel what I feel, need what I need. And I would feel the same from you. It should have sounded like a prison. Instead, it sounded like coming home. And if I say no, then I will still protect you, still keep you safe. But you will remain human, fragile, mortal. Something flickered in his eyes. And I will have to watch you die again. The pain in those words was so raw it made her chest ache. You really have lost me 17 times I have held you as you died. 17 times I have felt our bond sever. 17 times I have had to wait decades or centuries to find you again. He stood and moved to the window, his back to her. I am tired, Ilara. So tired of losing you. If you choose mortality, I will respect it. But I will not pretend it won't destroy me when you're gone. She got out of bed, her bare feet silent on the cold stone floor, moved to stand beside him. Outside, the city was still dark, still sleeping. Show me, she whispered. Show me one of the memories. Prove to me this is real. He turned to face her, and for a moment she saw the full weight of his age in his eyes, the loneliness, the grief. Then he raised his hand and pressed 2 fingers to her temple. The world exploded into light and color and sensation. She was standing in a marketplace, but it was wrong. The clothes were wrong. The language was wrong. She looked down and saw her hands were darker, her dress made of rough linen. A man was calling to her in a language she shouldn't understand but somehow did. She turned and saw Kalen, but he looked different, younger somehow, though still ancient. He was smiling at her, reaching for her hand. Then the scene shifted. She was running through a forest, terror clawing at her throat. Something was chasing her, something with red eyes and teeth like knives. She stumbled and fell, and it was on her, tearing into her throat. She screamed. And then Kalen was there, ripping the creature away, cradling her as blood poured from her neck. She watched the light fade from his eyes as she died in his arms. The scene shifted again. A castle, stone walls. She was wearing a gown of deep blue velvet. Kalen was there, dressed like a lord, and he was arguing with someone, a man with a crown. Then soldiers were dragging her away and Kalen was fighting them, killing them. But there were too many. She was thrown from a tower window, and the last thing she saw was his face, twisted in anguish, as she fell, again and again. 17 deaths played out in her mind. 17 lives cut short. 17 times Kalen had found her and lost her. When the visions ended, she was on her knees, tears streaming down her face. Kalen was kneeling beside her, his hand still on her temple. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm sorry you had to see that. She looked up at him through her tears. It's real, all of it. I remember now. Not everything, but enough. She grabbed his hand, held it tight. I don't want to die again. I don't want to leave you again. Then don't. His voice was fierce. Stay with me. Let me make you strong enough that nothing can take you from me. Let me give you eternity. Will it hurt? Yes. The transformation is agony, but I will be with you through every moment of it. And when it's done, you will be mine in every way that matters, and I will be yours. She thought about Marcus, about the men who had hurt her, about how fragile and powerless she had been. Then she thought about forever, about never having to be afraid again, about spending eternity with the one being in all of existence who had loved her across lifetimes. Do it, she said. Make me yours. His eyes flared silver bright. Are you certain? Once this is done, there is no going back. I'm certain. He pulled her to her feet and led her back to the bed, laid her down gently on the black silk. Then he climbed over her, caging her body with his, and she felt the full weight of his power pressing down on her. I will drink from you first, he said, his voice dropping to something dark and hungry. I will take you to the edge of death, and then I will bring you back with my blood. You will sleep for 3 days. When you wake, you will be transformed. Do you understand? Yes. He lowered his head to her neck, his lips brushing the pulse point there. This is your last chance to refuse me. I don't want to refuse you. I want you. He bit down. The pain was sharp and immediate, but it was followed by something else. Pleasure, dark and overwhelming and utterly consuming. She gasped, and her hands came up to clutch at his shoulders. He drank deeply, pulling her life force into himself, and she felt their souls beginning to intertwine, felt the bond forming between them, stronger than steel, deeper than oceans. Her vision started to fade. Her heartbeat slowed. Just when she thought she couldn't take any more, he pulled back, bit his own wrist and pressed it to her lips. "Drink, my love. Drink and be reborn." She drank. His blood filled her mouth, her throat, her veins. It was fire and ice and lightning all at once. It rewrote her from the inside out. She felt her human self dying and knew something powerful, rising to take its place. Kaelin gathered her close, holding her as the transformation began. "Sleep now," he whispered against her hair. "I will watch over you. I will keep you safe. And when you wake, we will have forever." The darkness took her. But this time it wasn't frightening. This time, she knew she would wake again. 3 days passed in a blur of fever dreams and half-formed memories. She saw all her past lives playing out like a film, saw herself in different bodies, different times, but always with the same soul. And always, Kaelin was there, searching for her, finding her, loving her, losing her, but not this time. When she finally opened her eyes, the world had changed. Everything was sharper, brighter. She could hear the individual heartbeats of people blocks away, could smell the rain that was still hours from falling, could feel the vibration of life all around her. Kaelin was there immediately, sitting on the edge of the bed. "Welcome back." She sat up and looked at her hands. They looked the same, but she could feel the power thrumming beneath her skin. It worked. He smiled, and it was the first real smile she'd seen from him. It transformed his face, made him look almost human. "How do you feel?" "Incredible, powerful, hungry." The last word came out as almost a growl, and she pressed a hand to her stomach. "What is that?" "Bloodlust. It's normal for a newborn. Come." He stood and offered his hand. "I'll teach you to hunt." She took his hand and let him pull her to her feet. The movement was effortless, graceful in a way she'd never been before. "Hunt what? Not what? Who?" His expression went cold again. "We're going to pay a visit to Marcus Thorne, and you're going to take your revenge." The hunger inside her sharpened into something focused, something deadly. Yes. They moved through the city like shadows, faster than human eyes could track. Kaelin led her to a large house on the wealthy side of town. Marcus's house. She could smell him inside, could hear his heartbeat, could sense the warmth of his blood. "He's alone," Kaelin said quietly. "His servants have the night off. Convenient. Did you arrange that?" "I may have influenced a few minds." He looked at her. "This is your kill, Alara. Your justice. I will not interfere unless you ask me to." She nodded and moved toward the door. It was locked, but when she touched the handle, it shattered in her grip. She stared at her hand in wonder. "You're stronger than you realize," Kaelin said from behind her. "Go. He's upstairs." She climbed the stairs, her new senses guiding her. Found Marcus in his bedroom, already in his nightclothes, reading by lamplight. He looked up when she entered and his face went pale. "Alara, but you're supposed to be dead." "I was," she said, and her voice came out different, colder, harder. "You made sure of that. You and your friends. You beat me, violated me, left me to die in the snow." He scrambled backward on the bed. "It wasn't my idea. The others, they wanted to rob you, and I just went along with it. You held me down." She moved closer, and she could see her reflection in the mirror on his wall. Her eyes were glowing silver, just like Kaelin's. "You smiled while they hurt me." "I'm sorry. Please. I'm sorry." Sorry isn't enough. She was on him before he could scream, her hand around his throat, lifting him off the bed. The strength was intoxicating. "You took everything from me. Now I'm going to take everything from you." She bit down on his neck, and his blood flooded her mouth. It was nothing like Kaelin's blood. It was hot and human and filled with fear, but it satisfied the hunger. She drank deeply, feeling his life draining away, feeling his heart slow and stutter and finally stop. When she pulled back, he was dead. She let his body fall to the bed and turned to find Kaelin standing in the doorway, watching her with approval. "How do you feel?" he asked. Satisfied, powerful. She looked down at her hands, at the blood on them. "Is it always like this? The first kill is always the most intense. But yes, there is always power in it, always satisfaction." He moved into the room and took her hands, cleaning the blood away with a handkerchief. "You did well. He deserved worse, but this will do. What about the others, the ones who were with him? We'll find them, one by one, and you will have your revenge on each of them." He pulled her close, and she went willingly, resting her head against his chest. "But for now, we should go. The sun will rise soon, and while you're strong, you're not yet strong enough to withstand daylight." They returned to his home, to the vast underground chamber that served as his sanctuary. Ilara felt the exhaustion of her first hunt settling into her bones. "Will I ever be able to walk in daylight again?" she asked as he led her to the bed. "In time, with age comes resistance. I can tolerate sunlight for short periods, though it's never comfortable. You will build that tolerance over decades." He brushed a kiss across her forehead. "Rest now. Tomorrow night, we continue your education." She caught his hand before he could pull away. "Stay with me." Something softened in his expression. "Always." He lay down beside her, pulling her into his arms, and for the first time in 17 lifetimes, they both slept peacefully. No fear of loss, no threat of death. Just the two of them, finally together, finally safe. The next weeks passed in a blur of training and hunting and learning what it meant to be a vampire. Kaelin taught her to control her strength, to move with supernatural speed, to influence human minds with just a thought. He taught her to hunt without killing, to take only what she needed and leave her prey alive and unaware. But he also taught her about the dangers. "There are others like us," he said one night as they stood on the roof of his home, looking out over the city. "Not many, but enough. Most are younger, weaker. They will sense what you are, and they will either try to recruit you or destroy you. Why would they want to destroy me? Because you are mine, and I am powerful enough to be a threat to anyone who seeks control in this region." He turned to face her. "And there is a vampire named Lucian, who has been trying to establish dominance here for the past century. I have kept him in check, but he will see you as a weakness, a way to get to me. Then we'll deal with him. We will, but carefully. He is nearly as old as I am, and he is cunning." Kaelin's expression was serious. "Promise me you will not face him alone. Promise me you will not take unnecessary risks." She heard the fear beneath his words, the memory of losing her 17 times. "I promise." He pulled her close and kissed her, deep and claiming, and she felt the bond between them pulse with power. When he pulled back, his eyes were molten silver. "I love you, Ilara. In every life, in every form, I have loved you. But this time, this life, I finally get to keep you. You'll always have me," she whispered. Forever, but forever, she was about to learn, came with complications. 2 nights later, they were hunting in the old quarter when Ilara felt it. A presence, cold and ancient and hostile. She turned and saw a man standing in the shadows, tall, pale, with hair like spun gold and eyes like frozen sapphires. "Kaelin," the man said, his voice smooth as silk. "I heard rumors you had finally found her again, your precious bloodmate. I had to see for myself." Kaelin moved in front of Ilara, his body tense. "Lucian, you're not welcome here. This is a free city, old friend. I go where I please." Lucian's gaze slid past Kaelin to Ilara. "So this is the one you've been searching for across the centuries. She's lovely. I can see why you're so obsessed. Leave. Now." Kaelin's voice was deadly quiet. "Or what? You'll fight me. We both know how that would end. We're too evenly matched. We'd destroy half the city before either of us gained an advantage." Lucian smiled, showing fangs. "No, I think I'll stay. I think I'll get to know your little mate. After all, if she's going to be part of this world, she should know all the players." Ilara stepped out from behind Kaelin. "I don't need to know you. I just need you to leave us alone." Lucian laughed. Oh, she has spirit. I like that. Tell me, little one, has Kaelin told you about the others? About the vampires who would love to drain you dry just to hurt him? Enough. Kaelin's power flooded the air, making the temperature drop 20 degrees. You've delivered your warning. Now go. This isn't a warning, old friend. It's an invitation. Lucian's smile widened. There's a gathering in 3 nights. All the vampires in the region will be there. A chance to establish territories, settle disputes, make alliances. You should bring your mate. Let everyone see what you've claimed. Unless, of course, you're afraid someone might try to take her from you. It was a challenge, a trap, and they both knew it. We'll be there, Ilara said before Kaelin could respond. Lucian's eyebrows rose. Excellent. I look forward to it. He inclined his head mockingly, and then he was gone, vanishing into the shadows. Kaelin turned to her, his expression furious. Why did you accept? Because if we don't go, we look weak. And if we look weak, they'll come after us. She met his gaze steadily. You taught me that. Never show fear, never back down. His anger faded, replaced by something like pride. You're right. But this gathering will be dangerous. There will be vampires there who are centuries old, who have power and cunning you can't imagine. Then you'll protect me. And I'll learn. She took his hand. And we're in this together, remember? Forever. He pulled her into his arms and held her tight. Forever, he agreed. But if anything happens to you, if anyone so much as threatens you, I will burn the world down to keep you safe. She believed him. The next 3 nights were spent preparing. Kaelin taught her the politics of vampire society, the hierarchies and alliances and ancient grudges that shaped their world. He taught her how to shield her mind from intrusion, how to project power even when she felt uncertain, how to kill efficiently if it came to that. Most vampires are not like us, he explained. They are not bound by love or loyalty. They are driven by hunger and ambition and the desire for power. Trust no one at this gathering except me. What about allies? Don't you have any? I have those who fear me enough not to challenge me. That is not the same as friendship. He cupped her face in his hands. You are the only one I trust completely, the only one I would die for. The night of the gathering arrived too quickly. Kaelin dressed her in a gown of deep crimson silk that clung to her curves and made her look like a queen. He wore black, as always. But there was something regal about him tonight. Something that reminded her he had been alive when empires rose and fell. They traveled to an abandoned cathedral on the outskirts of the city. It had been reclaimed by vampires decades ago, turned into a meeting place for the undead. As they entered, Ilara felt the weight of dozens of ancient gazes turning toward them. The cathedral was filled with vampires. Some looked human. Others had clearly stopped trying. There were creatures with eyes like cats, with skin like marble, with presences so dark they seemed to absorb light. And at the center of it all stood Lucian, smiling like a snake. Kaelin, you came, and you brought your lovely mate. He gestured to the assembled vampires. Everyone. This is Ilara, Kaelin's bloodmate, the one he's been searching for across the centuries. Isn't she precious? The way he said it made it sound like an insult. Kaelin's hand tightened on hers. We're here. State your business, Lucian. Business? This is a social gathering, old friend. A chance for us all to get to know each other better. Lucian moved closer, circling them like a predator. Although, I suppose there is one small matter to discuss. Territory. You see, you've been claiming this entire city as your own for far too long. Some of us think it's time for a more democratic approach. This city is mine, Kaelin said flatly. It has been for 200 years. That claim is not up for debate. Everything is up for debate. Lucian stopped in front of them. Unless you're willing to fight every vampire here to defend it. The cathedral went silent. Ilara felt the tension ratchet up to a breaking point, felt the predators around them preparing for violence. Then she stepped forward. If you want this city, you'll have to go through both of us, she said, her voice ringing clear in the vast space. Kaelin is not alone anymore. He has me. And I am not some fragile human you can threaten. I am his bloodmate, his equal, and I will defend what is ours with everything I have. The vampires stirred, murmuring among themselves. Lucian's smile faltered. Bold words for a newborn, then test me. She let her power flare, let the silver light in her eyes blaze bright. Come at me, Lucian. See what happens. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Lucian laughed. I like you, little one. You have fire. He turned to address the room. Very well. Kalen keeps his city, for now. But know this, all of you. The old order is changing, and those who cling to the past will be swept away. It was a threat, a promise of future conflict. But for tonight, it was enough. The gathering dissolved into smaller conversations, vampires breaking off into groups. Kalen pulled Alara aside, his expression a mix of pride and exasperation. And that was incredibly reckless, he said. It worked, didn't it? This time, but you made an enemy tonight. Lucian will not forget this challenge. Good. Let him remember. Let them all remember that we're not to be trifled with. She looked up at him. You've been alone for so long, fighting these battles by yourself, but you're not alone anymore. We're a team, and together, we're stronger than any of them. He kissed her then, deep and possessive, in front of every vampire in the cathedral, claiming her, showing the world that she was his and he was hers. When they finally pulled apart, she saw respect in the eyes of the vampires watching them, and fear. They left the gathering hand in hand, walking out into the night like the immortal couple they were. What happens now? Alara asked as they made their way home. Now we prepare. Lucien will make his move eventually. And when he does, we'll be ready. Kalen looked down at her. But until then, we have time. Time to be together. Time to build the life we've been denied for so long. Forever, she said. Forever, he agreed. And as they disappeared into the darkness, two ancient souls finally united. The city around them seemed to hold its breath, because something had shifted tonight. A new power had emerged, and the world of vampires would never be the same. In the weeks that followed, Alara and Kalen fell into a rhythm. They hunted together, trained together, ruled their territory together. She grew stronger every night, her powers developing faster than any newborn Kalen had ever seen. He told her it was because of their bond, because she was his bloodmate, because their souls were two halves of the same whole. But there were quiet moments, too. Moments when they would sit together in the darkness, and he would tell her stories of the ancient world, of civilizations that had crumbled to dust, of wars fought with magic and steel, of the other bloodmates he had found and lost. Tell me about the first time, she said one night, as they lay together in the massive bed. The first time you found me. His hand traced patterns on her bare shoulder. You were a priestess in a temple dedicated to the moon goddess. I was already ancient then, already tired of immortality. I came to your temple seeking answers about my existence, and I saw you. His voice went soft. You were singing. Your voice was the most beautiful thing I had ever heard. And when you looked at me, I felt something I hadn't felt in millennia. Hope. What happened? We had 3 years together, 3 perfect years. I thought perhaps the gods had finally taken pity on me. Then there was a war. Invaders came. They burned the temple. You died in the flames trying to save the sacred text. His arms tightened around her. I slaughtered every last one of them. But it didn't bring you back. She pressed a kiss to his chest. I'm here now. And I'm not going anywhere. I know. But sometimes I wake from sleep, and I have to check that you're still breathing, still real. The fear never quite goes away. Then I'll just have to keep reminding you. She climbed on top of him, straddling his hips, her hair falling around them like a curtain. I'm real. I'm here. I'm yours. He pulled her down and kissed her, and the kiss turned into something more. Something primal and claiming and utterly consuming. They made love as only immortals could, with the knowledge that they had forever to explore each other, to learn every secret, to build something that would outlast empires. Afterward, as they lay tangled together, Alara felt a contentment she had never known in any of her previous lives. This was what she had been searching for across the centuries. This was home. But peace, she was learning, was always temporary in the world of vampires. The attack came on a moonless night. They were in the old quarter, feeding from a pair of criminals who had been terrorizing the neighborhood, when Alara felt it. A disturbance in the air. A sense of wrongness. "Kaelin," she said, pulling back from her prey. He was already moving, pushing her behind him as figures emerged from the shadows. 5 vampires, all of them old, all of them radiating hostility. "Lucian sends his regards," one of them said, a woman with hair like blood and eyes like ice. "He wants you to know that your time is over, Kaelin. This city belongs to him now. Tell Lucian if he wants my city, he can come and take it himself instead of sending lackeys." Kaelin's power flooded outward, making the air crackle with energy. "Oh, he will. But first, he wants to see how you fight without your precious mate." The woman's gaze locked on Alara. "Take her." They moved as one, faster than thought, and suddenly Alara was fighting for her life. She had prepared for this. But the reality was different from practice. These were ancient vampires with centuries of experience. They were strong and fast and utterly ruthless. She managed to destroy one, ripping his heart from his chest, but the others overwhelmed her. She felt hands grabbing her, pulling her away from Kaelin, and she screamed his name. He turned, his face transforming into something monstrous, something that belonged to the oldest nightmares of humanity. His power exploded outward, and 2 of the vampires simply disintegrated, turned to ash by the sheer force of his rage. But the remaining 2 had Alara, and they were dragging her toward the shadows, toward whatever portal or escape they had planned. "Well, let her go," Kaelin said, and his voice was the voice of death itself. "Let her go, and I will give you a quick end. Keep her, and I will make your suffering last for centuries." The female vampire laughed. "You'll never find us in time. Lucienne has places even you don't know about. By the time you track us down, she'll be drained dry and left for you to find, just like all the others." Something broke in Kaelin's eyes, and then he moved. Alara had never seen him truly unleash his power before, had never seen what millennia of accumulated strength looked like when given free rein. He was a blur of death and destruction. Moving so fast he seemed to be in multiple places at once. The vampire holding her left arm was torn apart. The one holding her right tried to run, but Kaelin caught him. And what he did to that vampire made Alara look away. The female vampire released her and tried to flee, but Kaelin was on her in an instant. He grabbed her by the throat and lifted her off the ground. "Tell Lucian," he said, his voice utterly calm despite the carnage around them, "that if he ever threatens my mate again, I will erase him from existence. I will destroy everything he has built, everyone he has ever cared about, and I will make sure his name is forgotten by history. Do you understand?" The vampire nodded frantically. He threw her away with such force that she crashed through a brick wall. Then he turned to Alara, and the monster faded, replaced by the man she loved. "Are you hurt?" he asked, his hands running over her, checking for injuries. "I'm fine, shaken, but fine." She looked at the destruction around them. "You saved me. I will always save you, no matter the cost." He pulled her into his arms and held her so tightly she could barely breathe. "I cannot lose you again, Alara. I cannot survive it. You won't lose me." And I was, stronger than I've ever been in any life. She pulled back to look at him. "But we can't keep reacting to Lucian's attacks. We need to end this. We need to face him directly. If we face him directly, one of us will die. Possibly both of us. Then we make sure it's him." She took his hand. "You said we're stronger together. Let's prove it. Let's end this threat once and for all." He studied her for a long moment, and she saw the war in his eyes. The desire to keep her safe versus the knowledge that she was right. Finally, he nodded. "We'll need a plan, and we'll need to be smart about it. Lucian is cunning and he'll expect us to come for him. Then we give him what he expects, but we do it on our terms." They spent the next week preparing. Kaelin called in favors from the few vampires he trusted, gathered intelligence on Lucian's operations, identified his weaknesses. Alara trained harder than ever, pushing her new abilities to their limits. And then, when they were ready, they sent Lucian a message. A challenge. A duel. Winner takes the city. Loser leaves forever or faces final death. Lucian accepted immediately. The duel was set for the ruins of an old castle outside the city. Neutral ground. No interference from other vampires. Just Kaelin and Lucian, with Ilara as witness, or so Lucian thought. They arrived at midnight, the appointed hour. The castle ruins were atmospheric, all crumbling stone and creeping ivy. Lucian was already there, waiting in what had once been the great hall. Kaelin, punctual as always. He smiled. "And you brought your pet. How sweet." "She's not my pet. She's my equal." Kaelin moved to the center of the space. "Let's end this, Lucian. You and me. No more games." "Agreed." Lucian's smile widened. "Although I should tell you, I have no intention of leaving this city. I intend to take it from you, and when I'm done killing you, I'm going to take your mate as well. Keep her as a trophy. A reminder of the great Kaelin's fall." It was exactly the provocation they had expected. Kaelin attacked. The fight was brutal and beautiful and terrifying all at once. Two ancient vampires, both at the peak of their power, both fighting for dominance. They moved faster than human eyes could follow, their blows creating shockwaves that cracked stone and shattered what remained of the castle's windows. Ilara watched, her every instinct screaming to help, but she held back. This was Kaelin's fight, his chance to prove he was still the apex predator in this region. But as the fight wore on, she saw something that made her blood run cold. Lucian was cheating. There were other vampires hidden in the ruins. She could sense them now, could feel their presence. They were waiting for the right moment to strike, to tip the balance in Lucian's favor. She moved before she could think, racing toward the nearest hidden vampire. Found him crouched behind a fallen pillar, waiting for his moment. She grabbed him and snapped his neck before he could react, then moved to the next one. By the time Lucian realized what was happening, she had eliminated 4 of his backup. "You brought reinforcements," Kaelin said, his voice deadly calm even as he fought. "You broke the terms of the duel. All's fair in war, old friend. Then so is this." Kaelin's power exploded outward in a wave of pure destruction. Lucian was thrown backward, crashing into a wall hard enough to crack the stone. Before he could recover, Kaelin was on him, one hand around his throat, the other raised with claws extended. "Any last words?" Kaelin asked. Lucian spat blood. "This isn't over. There are others who want you gone. Others who will come for you and your precious mate. Let them come. We'll be ready." Kaelin's claws pierced Lucian's chest, closing around his heart. "But you won't be there to see it." He ripped Lucian's heart out. The ancient vampire's eyes went wide, then empty. His body crumbled to ash, centuries of existence ending in a moment. Kaelin stood, holding the heart, and looked around at the ruins, at the remaining vampires who had been hiding, who were now fleeing into the night. "Let them run," he said to Ilara. "Let them spread the word. This city is ours, and anyone who challenges that will face the same fate." She moved to his side, taking his free hand. "It's over. This battle is over. But there will be others." He dropped the heart and pulled her close. "There will always be others who want what we have, who want to test us. But we'll face them together." "Together," she agreed. They left the ruins hand in hand, walking back toward the city as the first light of dawn began to touch the horizon. They would need to find shelter soon. But for now, they savored the victory and the promise of forever that stretched out before them. In the months that followed, their legend grew. The ancient vampire and his bloodmate, ruling the city with power and justice. They were feared by their enemies and respected by those who chose to live peacefully in their territory. Ilara continued to grow in strength and wisdom, her memories of past lives becoming clearer with each passing night. She remembered being a warrior, a scholar, a queen. She remembered loving Kaelin in 100 different ways across 1,000 different circumstances, and she knew, with absolute certainty, that this life was different. This life, they would both survive. One night, as they stood on the balcony of their home, watching the city sleep below them, Kaelin turned to her with something like wonder in his eyes. "What is it?" she asked. "I'm happy," he said simply. "For the first time in millennia, I am truly, completely happy, and it's because of you." She smiled and leaned into him. "We have forever now, forever to be happy, forever to build something beautiful, forever to love each other, forever." He agreed, and kissed her as the stars wheeled overhead. And in that moment, with the city spread out before them and eternity stretching ahead, they both knew that they had finally found what they had been searching for across the centuries. Not just love, not just power, but home. A place where two ancient souls could finally rest, together, forever, the end of their beginning.